Okay. I guess we just jump in like Jason does. I've never done this part, so it's a little bit scary.
All right, so
You got it.
we're missing our homie.
Yeah.
Jason, we miss you.
Jason.
It's not the same.
It's not 4 thoughts.
It's only 3.
It's 3.
Just 3.
It's 3 thought this week.
So
3 thought podcast. I don't like that.
no.
We you know what? In honor, before we even do the icebreaker,
In honor, I like that.
honor
yes.
of
Nice. Good way to
Jason.
say that.
Would everybody just take a moment and we'll just be silent and remember our brother
Moment of silence.
who's not with us?
He didn't die. I feel like I
No,
need
he's
to
just not
clarify
with
that.
us.
No, he just
Oh.
He's
he
literally
couldn't
not
make
with us.
He could not make this episode, so we're forging ahead without him. And so
Forging ahead.
Forging, yes. All right, let's take a moment of silence in 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's good enough.
all right.
Yeah, sorry, Jason. Let's jump into the icebreakers. This is gonna be exciting. Okay, let's pull this one out. Okay. Ooh, what are the positives and negatives of being competitive?
That question, man, I don't. The positives,
Yeah.
winning.
Winning. Yeah.
I love
winning.
I love kids these
Just because
days.
you're competitive doesn't mean you're gonna win.
More likely than not. Statistics prove that out.
I'd like to see
my
your stats, sir.
My thing is, kids these days are like, "Oh, you're a tryhard." I'm like, "Yeah, there's another name for tryhards: winners." Yeah. Because if you try hard, you're more likely to win. That's just basic. You know,
Yep.
basic.
Mhm.
So,
Positive of being
that's the positives.
of
Yeah, being competitive.
being competitive is you inspire other people around you to also,
Yeah,
be competitive.
that's another
That's
good one.
true.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
whether you're playing an individual sport, you inspire them to want to step up their game. Most of the time, sometimes they're like, I'm out. Forget this mess.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you inspire people to step up their game. And especially if it's a team element. If people are like, they have doubt, I don't want to do this. They're like, no, we got this. We're going to do this. We're going to win. Even if we lose, we put forth our best.
Yeah.
Put forth our best effort.
Best effort. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things too that's kind of negative about it, I mean, if you're somebody who has a bad sportsmanship type attitude
Yeah.
and you're competitive, that can be quite negative because everybody around you is just going to immediately not even going to want to try. They're going to hate you. They're going to hate you. So I think if you're somebody who has bad sportsmanship combined with a competitive attitude, that's a negative right there.
Right.
But most of the time, I think being competitive is pretty positive.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very thankful for all the sports that I was in.
Sports.
Yeah, sports. I'm so thankful to all the sports I was in, where
Good recovery.
my teammates were competitive because without them, we would have lost every time. But
No doubt.
because we had a sense of competition within
Yeah.
us, we did
Yeah.
pretty good. So
Yeah.
I think those are good things to be in the competitive nature.
Yeah, I'm pretty competitive. I'm a middle child, so there's an element there that kind of is innate. It's just there. But I also know that there's been times where in my competitiveness, I've been obnoxious with it. And that's definitely a turnoff for those around you.
I think that's a preview of coming attractions.
Right.
There.
And so, but what I also recognize in that is it also inspires people to step up their game. And if I'm obnoxious and I'm playing dodgeball, they're going to want to win. They're going to want to peg me with the ball. So it's also inspiring, I guess, in such a way, as long as I'm okay with losing hard.
Yeah.
Well, on that note,
Yeah.
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 That's, yeah.
Yeah. On that note, welcome to the podcast.
From the opening notes of that song, we were hooked. 22 years ago this week, Microsoft released their greatest creation. No, not Windows. Halo. Today, we go on a running riot as we talk about Halo.
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. I wish I could do the ethereal voices.
all of the like all the guys who did that in like their bathrooms at school. Dude, today we get to talk about Halo. Love it or hate it, for those of you listening, it hands down shaped an entire generation.
For sure.
It did.
That's right. It's not a song. It's
yeah, we're not talking about Beyonce.
It's a video
here.
game. It's a video game.
Yep.
We're talking about
iconic.
The Halo. The one and only.
Yes.
Starting with Combat Evolved.
Combat Evolved. Yes. Man, I don't know. For the rest of you, I mean, I remember the first time I saw Halo, and it was this moment of, what's this? You know, because there were other games out there, and it's like, here we go, another alien shooter game, you know? And that was my initial take. I was like, what? And the storyline was, you know, at the time I was like, this is kind of a stupid storyline. Like, it's, you know, like it just didn't make sense. Okay, aliens, space marines, all right, whatever. And then the first time I played multiplayer, suddenly I got it. And I went, okay, yes. Because, I mean, there had been first-person shooter games before, such as GoldenEye, and there were other games out there that were first-person shooters. Perfect Dark. I mean, yeah, so you could play these games, but this was the first time that I think that they did it from more of a combat standpoint. Like there was multiple layers. There was a whole lot going on. You know, the weapon variety. There was just a lot. The graphics were so much better than any games, you know, that had come before. And the mechanics and just the way it worked just felt real. It felt so much more real than anything that had happened previously. So,
which is saying a lot.
And after that, I was like, okay. And the other thing it did for me is before that, I'd always played multiplayer on computers. And Halo was the first time that a console game met that criteria of, dude, the graphics are just as good as a computer. And the gameplay, it was like, wow, I can just hop on with some friends on the same Xbox, 4 people playing at the same time on the same Xbox. The screens were horribly small, but you know, it was like, okay, this is so much easier than, hey, everybody get on the LAN connection. And then I was like, wait, what's the IP? You know, and then this whole back and forth, you know, computer gaming was like, it was so painful back then. And Microsoft saw that and said, we got you. And it was awesome.
Yeah, mine was like a little bit different because I never owned like a really good gaming system at all, like through my childhood.
Right.
The first one I actually owned, other than the Super Nintendo, because it was my dad's, but he only got that out for special occasions, so we never actually got to just play it, right?
Yeah.
But the first one I owned, I remember, was a gift to me for one of my birthdays. It was a Nintendo 64, and GoldenEye was like the thing. Like that's what we all played all the time. And that's what made me fall in love with first-person shooters. And I just remembered, I was like, dude, it's not going to get better than this. This thing is awesome. And I heard rumblings of a new first-person shooter that was coming out.
Yeah.
And I heard whispers of a thing called Halo. But I was like, I'm not even going to pay attention because I don't own an Xbox. I don't own any of that stuff. I'm not going to be able to play it. So whatever, just don't even think about it. Well, I started attending this church in Angleton called Angleton First Assembly, and I started going to Royal Rangers, for anybody out there who knows what that is.
Ding, ding.
And a lot of the guys over us, which we called commanders, they were our teachers and stuff, they really were into the gaming world a lot. And so they brought a lot of their own interest into what we were doing as kids. And I just remember they brought these Xboxes in one time, and they were like, all right, guys, we've got something for you tonight. We're going to try. And literally all of them brought their Xbox. We had 4 Xboxes that evening. And they started setting up this system. And I'm watching. I'm like, what are they doing? They got these cables hooking into the backs. They're bringing in multiple TVs. And they turn it on. And all of a sudden, they all get it on like at the same time and turn it on. And the soundtrack just starts playing. And all I hear is, oh, you know? And I'm like, okay. This sounds awesome. And so we finally get to play this new game called Halo I'd never experienced before, and my first experience isn't the campaign, right? It's been out for a bit since, it dropped and everything, so everybody's played through that. So my first experience is getting completely slaughtered on Blood Gulch.
Oh yeah.
And I'm terrible at it because it's so different from GoldenEye, which is all I had experience in like first person shooters, playing with the I don't even know, like the 3-pointed controller thing going on.
Yeah.
So I'm experiencing Halo for the very first time by getting completely annihilated by guys who've been playing it for the past year. But I quickly became like completely in love with the game. I absolutely loved it. I learned how awesome the pistol was immediately. That thing was amazing. The sniper rifle, everybody tried to reach it first,
Yeah.
I fell in love right then and there. And so from then on out, it was all about, when are we going to play next? When's the next LAN party,
Yeah.
So that was like my very first experience ever with Halo. So it was literally like a year after the game had come out.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So since y'all brought up GoldenEye, I have to reference that really quick. I know this is all about Halo, but I also played GoldenEye, but it was one of those things where I went over to someone's house. They're like, "Oh, check out this game," and I'm like, "Oh, this is pretty rad." 007. I'm digging the soundtrack. Da 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 da. Hey, want to give a chance? And I'm like, "Sure, no big deal." But it was a big deal because these guys, like, I forget what they called it. They had a name for it, but they run the spawn.
Spawn camping?
Spawn camping.
So they knew exactly where I was going to pop up. And so as soon as they popped me, they ran to the next spot and waited for me to spawn, popped me in the next spot. Yeah. And they ran the spawn. And so I got 2 steps away from that spawn probably
before you
once,
got shot.
maybe twice.
Yeah.
And that whole game. And that ruined that experience for me. I'm like, nah, dude, I don't want to play with these people. This is not even remotely fun. I don't understand how it is fun for them, except, it just maniacal laughter in the background. It's like, okay, so you prove that you play this game a lot, whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, then I hear about Halo, and I'm a little skeptical, but I'm a sci-fi nerd at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And so the campaign comes out, and I'm totally digging what I'm seeing because it's also made by people that seem to love the Alien franchise as well. Yep. So the ships and some of the characters, some of the lore, it was all there. And I'm like, I'm playing in one of my favorite movie franchises almost. You know what I mean? And then there's multiplayer to boot. So I'm like, oh yeah, this is rad.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the first time I played, but it was like your experience, where it was like, I was a PlayStation guy before this. And when Halo came out and it was an Xbox exclusive, I'm like, you know what? It's time to make a switch for one game. So I have all these games on PlayStation, but I liked this Halo game so much, and the opportunity to connect with all these people like we had. So I'd gone to some LAN parties like you're talking about, where we're all connected into, the Switch, we got Cat5 cables running everywhere, whatever. I'd experienced that, and I'm like, oh, I'm in. And to have my own Xbox and to be able to get better and also be a part of contributing to that, by bringing my own equipment as well.
Yeah.
So I was all in. I was hooked, and so I never looked back to PlayStation ever again. So PlayStation 2, that was it. I got my Xbox and have upgraded and moved forward as the games have come out ever since. Yeah. So those were my quote unquote first experiences.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of us, our first experience is probably the catalyst into something greater. Like I played video games, but Halo started a love of video games for me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have like a super strict household, but screen time, as they call it nowadays, it just wasn't an option. Like there was always something better you could be doing than sitting in front of a TV or playing a video game.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that a lot. But whenever I started going to these group events and stuff, and LAN parties became more popular, like we had lock-ins at my church where the entire lock-in consisted of nothing but Halo and pizza. And Mountain Dew. Right? Like that's all it was. And so like I'm thinking back to my best memories of what Halo was for me, and I can't say anything else but a LAN party because I'm such a social person. I love hanging out with people. And the fact that I could go play a game, which I already enjoyed, and then do it with like a bunch of other people around me, and you're like screaming at the guy next to you, like you're like trying not to allow them to screen, watch and stuff. But then you get really creative. Like one of my favorite memories of all times was one time at this church. I'm playing this huge party. I think we had 16 players. And we had more people than that. We would just rotate on deaths or whatever. But we had 16 players, and we had one setup upstairs with a giant projector screen and all the Xboxes up there with a group of guys that are all on one team upstairs. And then we had cables running like half the church down to a gymnasium where the youth setup was. And the youth setup was awesome because they had like 10 Xboxes all with their own TVs and this whole crazy setup. And so, but we didn't want to be in the same room, right? So we separated it that far, and they did like a Cat 5 extender. I don't know if y'all remember those, right? Like it helped you boost them, right? So we did that, and then the other team is downstairs in this, but they're kind of lucky because they each have their own TV, and they daisy chained. Yeah. So they got lucky on that one because we had to share, even though the projector was pretty awesome. And I just remember like there was nothing better than that. That was amazing. And at that point, I was actually good. Like I had gotten better, I was in. This is like pre-battle rifle. It was only combat evolved at the time. And we were all just using the pistol, shotgun, rocket, and sniper. Like nothing else really existed unless somebody got a hold of a sword, and then everybody's like, I don't stop what you're doing, kill that guy.
Nice.
Yeah. Stop what you're doing. Like get out of the tank, go after him.
That was Halo 2.
Yeah. So that was definitely the best memory, is just the camaraderie of all of us really enjoying one game. I didn't get that really from any other game until like another game that shall not be named in this podcast. But it may have had the acronym of COD. But yeah, like that was definitely my best memory, is that huge LAN parties where we're all just eating pizza, drinking Mountain Dew, and nonstop multiplayer. Yeah. And then, the greatest part about that is it wasn't just team deathmatch. There were so many different ways, like capture the flag. Oh my gosh.
So good. Lots of different variants.
King of the Hill.
What about you guys?
King of the Hill, yes.
Dude,
yes.
King of the Hill, yeah. Oh man, I so many good memories. So many good memories. Yeah, and so I mean, I'm going to include Halo 2 in this as well because Halo 1 came out and I was in college, and me and my roommate, we didn't know a whole lot of people. We're new to the Corpus Christi area, going to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and we weren't really good at anything. We played through the campaign together, and you talk about it was all about multiplayer and LAN parties because. You don't want to be that campaign nerd. Yeah, I got through that campaign in 2 hours.
I did it on Legendary overnight.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay, cool. But I mean, like, I remember we would have these amazing LAN parties, and we would have we had a buddy with a 1-bedroom apartment in Corpus Christi, and we would pack everybody into his. I mean, there would be 30 people in this and 16 of us are playing, and the rest of them are watching. Yeah.
Dude, that reminds me of that meme where the guys duct taped to the ceiling.
It was like
the room is so packed of people playing, there was no room, so they stacked a monitor on someone else's monitor, duct taped the dude to the ceiling rafter, and he was playing Halo.
Yeah, I mean,
that's hardcore.
Seriously, it was like that. It was like that. We were so packed in there that his AC would always just like. We were all sweating. Yeah. AC's going full blast. And so people would go out on the balcony just to air out, just like, whew, just breathe. And like we had fans going. And, we would just have these amazing parties. It was just everybody. And everybody was into it. And, the girls would play, like they would rotate in and they'd play and we'd be like, dude, and so we had a crew of 4 of us and we would play. And we called ourselves the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And that's awesome. We each had a name. It was like death, pestilence, war, and famine. And
dude,
and we had colors.
Before you go on too far, because I don't want to miss this opportunity. You just mentioned names. I'm curious. What was your
Xbox's name?
Yeah, like what was your when you were playing Halo? What was the name?
You don't remember your first one? I don't remember.
Dude, mine was Papa Smurf.
Oh, nice.
I went by Papa Smurf for years, and I still use it
because of your Xbox. That's hilarious. Yeah, I don't remember mine, but I just remember like we would all play together. And so my buddy, his name was Nick, and Nick would play as Captain Charisma. And so, like, we all had our different names. And there was a guy, he was originally from Chicago, and so he called himself Chi-Town. And then we had the Hammer, which was Jimmy. And so we had kind of like came up with little gang names. Well, because of one game where we were playing free-for-all. And so it was 16, free-for-all, 16-way free-for-all.
Yeah.
And gosh, I can't remember the map, but you would remember. It has the lift, has the hallway with a dark, and it's got multiple layers. It's got the town, like an antenna. It's outside, and there's like a hallway. Like we always called it the library over here. Anyway, so if you're looking,
Halo 1 or Halo 2?
Halo 2.
Oh. Put it in the comments.
Yeah,
if you know the map he's talking about.
I don't know.
No. Anyway, so we would play that map all the time. Like that was our map, and we'd always play specifically Halo 2. We would always play. We had a game variant called Duel, and so it was just swords and pistols. And no shields. Yeah. And so it was
around the corner dead.
It was the best, man. It was the best. And so one day, like we were playing, and I'd get in the middle, like it had a middle part. And so there's like multiple levels over here, the lift here, the hallway behind me, and I'm standing and I'm like, bring it.
Of course.
And I've got dual wield pistols. And I'm like, bring it. And I just stood and I spun in a circle and I just went pa-pa, 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 all the way around, headshots all the way around. And actually my name came from that moment of Halo lore for me. And they started calling me One Shot after that.
Nice.
It's like, dude, One Shot, man. One Shot. Yeah, you got to watch out for him with those pistols. He's One Shot.
All of a sudden, somebody comes in, they're like, all right, turn the shields back. Oh,
yes. Yes. It was like battle rifle and shields. Yeah. They were always the newbies. And we're like, no. We don't play with shields around
BR
here.
was good, though.
Oh, dude, the BR on Blood Gulch. Oh.
I know exactly what you are.
Yeah.
I can't for the life of me. And
then there were barrels. And so we had this song.
Shoot them.
Yep. Yeah, so we had the song, and it was "Roll Out the Barrels." So anytime we were gonna kill somebody with a barrel, we'd be like, "Roll out the barrels."
Yeah, the whole classic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we had somebody awesome, and like Charisma, he always played with a sword. He was like, he would go hide, and like he would show himself.
He'd have to be that guy.
Yeah.
If he's got a name like Charisma.
Oh, yeah, he had the Riz.
At least he's not the Needler guy. Oh, if you were a Needler guy and you're watching this right now,
unsubscribe.
Yeah, just. That when they introduced dual wielding needlers, I was like, "Why? You just broke the game,
dude!" Rockets on Hang 'Em High. I mean, there were so many good moments.
That was so good.
So many good moments. Snipers on Hang 'Em High. There were so many good moments.
We played Rockets only. Capture the flag on Hang 'Em High.
That sounds awesome.
That was so much fun.
Yeah.
What was your best memory?
Best memory, man. There's so many really good memories. Lots of LAN parties.
Yep.
But I had this friend. He was a youth minister in a town further down the road, and we had competitions between his group and our group.
Yeah,
nice.
And so they would bring. Awesome. They were like, "All right, we're gonna have a full night of Halo. It's gonna be at our house. Our house was networked, and so you just had to patch into the walls, and we had screens and projector and blah blah blah." And so they would all come, and we would be ready to go, and we would pick 10 variants, and they would pick 10 variants, and basically they got to choose how they played with what rules. So you brought you to the table, we brought us to the table. We could see who was last man standing.
Wow.
I made a trophy with the Blue Master Chief.
Nice.
With the plaque. And
that's awesome.
Went all out on it because I knew we were going to be able to retain it. And we did. We just dominated him and destroyed him. But he was awesome. We hung out a lot. And anytime there was like a midnight release of the game, we'd purchased it ahead of time. And then we would go to the movies. Then we would go to the midnight release. And then we would drive. So we lived in Yoakum, which is several hours away, and then we had to drive 45 minutes from the nearest GameStop back to our house.
Yeah.
So we drove, downloaded, put the game in, got online together, and literally played from the time we got home until we beat the campaign.
Yeah.
And so we would do that till like 6 a.m.
And we just have to be clear, like, this was a time where once you put the disc in,
yes,
the game
I was gonna say that.
was fully there.
Yeah, you could play right away.
Worked.
Yeah.
You did not have to wait for 19 hours for a massive DLC content thing going on.
2 days later, you finally get to play.
Yeah, I caught myself on that one.
Yeah,
we had lots of LAN parties. Like we packed our house out all the time. So that was good fun, man.
Yeah.
It was. We call it, for those that were like, we don't like that you're doing that, all those video games. We're like, man, it's like digital tag. And we just
that's a great way to put it.
Digital
tag.
We just had lots of people come over. And it's like, hey, invite your friends. We always had pizza. Throw in a couple dollars or whatever.
And there was something so good about that too, because I have to say, there's people I grew up with that were not very social. Yeah, like they didn't have a lot of friends. They didn't get out much and stuff. And Halo was that entrance into having like great relationships.
Sure,
and it was something we all had in common. It was like a great equalizer.
Like, and I'll say something about this too, real quick while I'm on it. Speaking of relationships, right?
Yeah,
like right now, if you go try to do a game like this, it's all online.
Yeah.
And as much as I enjoy that, like I can get on and I can play with a friend, because that was really amazing too. It's like, hey, you don't have to come over. I can actually we can get on even though you live 2 states away. That's awesome. But the downside is they took that too far, and now I can't do the LAN party and the multi-screen, like split screen stuff. That's all gone. Like I don't own. I almost don't own any new games from the past 5 years that have that available on them, and it's really sad because. Say what you will back then, because I had a lot of adults at the time too be like, I really don't like y'all doing all the game stuff. But I was like, we all got together in the same room and enjoyed each other's company and had something that connected us. Yeah. And like I said, like those couple friends that just never even got out of their house much, didn't have friends, like they had a whole community after this.
Yes,
for sure.
They actually would go out and do stuff. Sometimes, like you said, we would go get the game release and then go have pizza, like Pizza Hut, right, and hang out. So it was more than just a game. It blossomed to more than that. And, which is why I think Halo is arguably one of the most culture shifting video games that's ever released.
I think you're right.
Yeah, well, it was designed. It was designed with that in mind. It's like, hey, we want 4 people to play together on an Xbox. And back then, I think the other thing is greed. Nowadays, it's like if you do play a multiplayer, you got to have your own account.
Yeah,
which means you got to have your own.
Yeah, y'all came over the other day, and we had to like
all download our account.
Yeah, we all had to finagle an account somehow instead of me just adding you to a split screen. It was so weird.
Back in the day, it was so easy.
Yeah, it was easy because it wasn't about greed. It was just like there was just this, hey,
community.
Yeah, community. Exactly.
It was,
and like y'all keep talking about church. Like for us, our college and career group, we started a Halo ministry.
That's awesome.
And it was like, hey,
invite your friends, here we go.
Saturday night, bring everybody. And we had them networked. We had like 4 Xboxes networked, and we'd sit there and play on screens together. And I mean, people that never set foot in a church, they never came to our service. They'd come to the Halo ministry.
People have a problem with that. Just remember, y'all once had a volleyball ministry, so.
Nice.
I don't know if that's the same thing.
Nice.
But
my kids,
dodgeball ministry.
They didn't play. My kids didn't play much, growing up because they were little, and but when they could play, they had good times, and they remember all the LAN parties, and we got that Master Chief Edition, right? So we got 4 different, more than that on there, but my youngest Jacob and I we're playing through all the campaigns together.
That's awesome.
We set it up and we're like just grinding through. So every time we get an opportunity to hang out, so even now with my kids, it's just like, you want to throw down some Halo? Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
It's still making memories.
I know. And that actually, hold on. I'll lead to the next question on this because it fits so well with this, talking about Halo, like how you're playing with your son right now.
Yeah.
One of the questions we want to answer, like we talked about like some of our best memories, but what were the worst memories? And actually my worst memory is something recent.
Oh, really?
Because I loved Halo. I've played it for years. The top ones are definitely 1, 2, and 3 for me, but that's because that's my childhood, right?
Right.
As I get older, it kind of loses. Like I think back on, I reminisce and have nostalgia with those. But the thing that became kind of a worse memory, and it's kind of humorous, is that I spent so much time away from it because I don't play as much as I used to.
Right.
Like 3 or 4 Halo games have come out since I've played. And I haven't touched them. And a while back, I decided, hey, I'm going to get this game and come back and play. And my worst memory is that I suck now. I'm so bad.
Owned.
I am so bad at the game. Like
Dude.
I played Combat Evolved the other day, and the game mechanics from that to Halo Infinite are vastly different.
Oh yeah.
And so when you're playing Infinite, you can kind of move around like most modern games. It's pretty smooth. And you can go back to the other one, and I literally feel so slow, sluggish, and clunky.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think I got a single kill, like nothing. I was just dying the whole time. It was very reminiscent of my first experience of Halo.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
I'm shooting you. Why aren't you falling down?
So that's
They tried to shoot me once.
That's like my worst.
Yeah. That just happened to me. Like I picked up Fortnite because some of the guys in my class were like, "Dude, you play Fortnite?" And I'm like, I don't really play Fortnite. I haven't played Fortnite in like 4 years. And so I was like, all right, I'll play Fortnite. And now they have OG Fortnite, which is the Fortnite I remember. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, now I'm OG. Okay, but anyway, so that brings me to my knowing that you suck. All right.
Yes, I'm terrible
so
at Halo now.
Halo 1 had come out. Me and my roommate, Joel Lovelace.
If you track with our podcast, you've heard this before.
And so
this is new to you.
Yeah, a refresher. But yeah, so we're hanging out. And Eric comes down to visit, and Eric spends the weekend with us, and he's like, "All right, you want to play some Halo?" And we're like, "Sure." And neither me nor my roommate, we played through the campaign together, but that's about it. We hadn't played multiplayer. I mean, it's just two people. Why are you gonna play multiplayer? So Eric comes out and he goes, "All right, I'll do me versus y'all." And we're like, "Okay." We start playing, and it's absolute. It was sad. It was so sad. I was ready to cry. Dead. And so he goes, "I tell you what, guys, here's what I'll do. I'll only hit you, physically melee you instead of shooting you." And we're like, okay, that sounds a little more fair. No. We're still, it's like,
a little more fair, but a whole lot more humiliating.
Where is, and then he said this phrase, and the phrase I will never forget.
Yeah.
Woohoo. And he would clock you, and he'd go like, woohoo, boom, woohoo, boom. And all night long. And finally, both me and Joel are looking at it and like, dude, you're going to have to stop it with a woohoo.
Yeah, we're done.
We're about to get physically violent here. Like, both of us are about to just beat you.
Halo just makes family.
And, yeah. So he stopped doing that, but we, after like an hour and a half, 2 hours of that, we're like, oh, okay, we're done. Let's watch a movie or something. Because, yeah.
You just watch that on replay.
Yeah. It was brutal. It was so brutal.
I mean, but that back then, that's when you were playing all the time. Like that was like your thing for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were really good. We were talking one time, and I was thinking about it. I was like, I bet if you would have been on the charts, you probably would have been like top 10% in the world.
I don't know about that,
but yeah, I mean, you definitely could have been competitive.
I have a friend that still plays to this day. He streams. Incredibly talented, was top 10% of best Halo players in the world multiple times. He might actually be right now. Wow. If you want to look him up, he actually still streams on Twitch and stuff. It's at Genesis Rider. Super talented, awesome Halo player, has been there since the beginning. In fact, he's one of those guys that just like fell in love with Halo in the beginning and has stuck with it ever since.
Nice.
Yeah, and now he's making a living off of it.
Yeah, probably.
Almost.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
It's definitely something he'd prefer to do that. But
Eric, did you talk about any bad memories you have?
I don't think he has bad.
No, he's got no bad memories.
He's got no bad memories. This guy. He was so. That's why I brought up the fact that he was so good. What's bad about it? Just dominating.
I guess the only bad memories, and they're not really bad, it would just be like, when we were doing youth ministry back in the day, and we would have these Halo nights because they all wanted to play.
Yeah.
And then I would have, so you do youth ministry, you're spending time mentoring students, right?
Yep.
I would have a house full. Like, our family would get to host, 30 students that would never, like you said, never walk in the doors of our church, or hardly ever.
Yeah.
But they would come over, and we would feed them, and we'd all have a good time, or we'd throw in a couple of dollars, and everybody would be like, all right, but, if you didn't have money, whatever, we don't care, we're still going to feed you.
Yep.
And everybody would get to connect. And, man, the memories that we made were awesome. And I got to just really, watch a lot of people grow through those opportunities. And there was, I just remember it was, there's always one or two parents or whatever that are like, this is not good. And you're like, just give me an opportunity to explain, and I'll listen to you. And that's what I would do. I'd be like, what is your frustration? Because a lot of time they just didn't know
what the game was.
Exactly.
Even.
And I don't want to, it was ignorance. And I'm not saying you're ignorant. I'm like, it was just not knowing.
Yeah.
And so it was an opportunity to be like, all right, tell me what you know. Tell me what your apprehensions or frustrations are, and then we can go from there.
Yeah.
And having that conversation with several people, and just being like I said, hey, like I said, it's digital tag.
Yeah.
It's like we're and we'll also have the opportunity to connect. It wasn't extreme gore or violence or whatever.
Right.
It just
Yeah.
So just those were some of the downsides, for lack of better words. They
Yeah,
it's not really bad. Yeah.
For lack of better words.
Oh, he brought
ding,
it.
ding,
Oh my
ding.
gosh.
Yeah.
Right.
If we had a bell every time. No, but
Yes, we should.
dude, I agree with that. I experienced the same thing. Like people that just didn't understand. Well, some of them were against video games in the ministry
Just
at all, in general. But there was so much, like, I don't want to say fruit necessarily, but there was a lot of growth.
Oh, sorry.
So it was cool to see how some of the things that people didn't understand, eventually they came to understand. And it was actually really good. So
Yeah.
I'm like, as we talk about how it's changed in the past, we have good memories, bad memories, all that kind of stuff. But like, what about Halo now?
I think what you said. I'm the same way. I've departed from playing. I used to follow it pretty heavily, and then Bungie stopped doing it, and
343.
Yeah, so there are some changes that were made. I'm like, this is still cool, but then I was waiting, and
It's vastly different than what it was.
And then you're waiting, yeah. And then you're waiting so long that everything's changed. And I'm like, I've moved on, or there was a season where I just like, what, video games aren't as important.
For sure.
As the kids grew,
I hear you.
When they're little, you got more options, but as they grow, you don't want to be like, sorry kid, I'm playing video games, go away. It's like, no,
no doubt.
I don't want them to see that this is the main priority. So I would just put that stuff down. I would play with them, or we'd play some Lego Star Wars or whatever.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, or we'd go outside and play or whatever. Just priority shifted.
Yeah,
and so,
life has changed. You don't have as much time, and there's other things that are better for you right now.
Yeah. So now there's
What about you?
several Halo games, and I'm just
Yeah, we don't play.
Yeah, I hardly ever play. I think about, you were talking about with the kids, like I was playing Call of Duty, I was playing Battlefield.
He said it.
Yeah, I did. And and then Zia came along, and then suddenly I was like, I don't really want to play. And then they came out with, I think it was the first like reissue of Combat Evolved.
Yeah.
And when that came out, I was like, cool. Zia was still little. She was like 2 or whatever. And I was like, let's, I actually played Halo with Zia when she was like, 2 and 3 years old.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, Daddy, you want to pow the bad guys? And you're like,
Yes,
yeah, let's do it.
Yes, I do want to pow the bad guys.
And so that, those were precious moments with my child. And I did it because I couldn't play the other games. The other games were traumatizing.
Yeah.
That one,
No kidding.
that one was not, there's a little of blood, but that was it, and
you can turn that off.
And you could turn it off, and I did. And so, now I don't really play Halo that much anymore. I would love, I'd love to have LAN parties and try to connect with, my kids and my kids' friends. But that's all Fortnite now. It's all online.
Yeah.
It's these other games, and it's about what's cool. And Halo, sadly, is not that anymore.
Yeah. Man, as I wrap this up, I mean, you said it. We're just we're kind of the old guys that are now just reminiscing of a time that we loved, and we still love Halo. It's definitely evolved into something different, which is, I mean, it's cool, but it has something for each generation. Ours was Halo 1, 2, and 3. Like that's what we love. But more than that, it was literally the community. You've heard us talk this entire podcast about how the community of people we were around, that's really truly what we loved. It wasn't just the game. The game in and of itself was cool and fun, but it would have been nothing without that community that we had and the LAN parties that we had.
For sure.
It would not have lasted as long. So that gave us something really great. And the newer games just don't offer that in the same way. You can do it online, but sometimes our lives don't permit us getting online for hours at a time and trying to connect with people in different parts of the world. Sometimes it's just better to sit in front of the same TV and play, and that's what we miss. Yeah. But we still have a place in our hearts for Halo. We still love it.
Sure.
And we would love to hear like your stories about Halo. Like, when did you first experience it? Is this something you've played before? Is it not? Is this the first time you're hearing about the game Halo? We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think in the comments. And once again, thanks for being along for the ride as we've talked about some of our favorite gaming experience with Halo.
Yep.
And we'll catch you next time on another 4THOUGHT podcast. Actually, a 3THOUGHT podcast.
No, next time it will be a 4THOUGHT.
right.
Yeah, next
This
time.
one's the 3THOUGHT.
All right. Miss you, Jason. Peace out.